Guess what? I finally got my first and second dose of the Moderna vaccine. My second dose was about 3 weeks ago now, so I'm considered to be fully vaccinated. I have been on the fence about sharing how my experience was with the COVID vaccine, just because I know that this is personal for everybody, and I'm only one person. I'm not a medical doctor, and I don't represent everyone who has had the ability or the privilege to get the vaccine. Over on my Instagram, I created a poll asking people if they would be interested in watching a video about my COVID vaccine experience, and the majority said yes. A lot of people also wanted to know if I had any side effects and how my rheumatoid arthritis has been holding up through it all. So that is what I plan on sharing in today's video, along with the surprisingly positive thing that I noticed after both doses, and what helped me overcome my fear, worry, and anxiety about getting the vaccine in the first place. Lastly, I want to share what I won't stop doing just because I'm vaccinated. And yeah, it has to do with this little guy. Before I get into all that though, hit that like button below if you ended up getting any one of the COVID vaccines. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's Effie. I first want to say that I'm only making this video to inform. I feel it's important to share what gave me courage to move forward with getting the vaccine. If you haven't subscribed yet, come join me and other Spoonie Stars on this healing journey. I would love to connect with you guys in the comments. Now, the moment you've all been waiting for, my first dose experience. And I'm going to start here because there's a big difference between what I experienced with the first dose versus the second dose. I think the most upsetting and annoying thing about this whole process was the long wait time. I did not have an employer or any other connections to get a vaccine appointment, so I was one of those people that had to wait for something to open up, and it was about 2 weeks of me sitting at my computer, refreshing the page every 30 minutes, and as someone who lives with a pre-existing condition, this was really concerning to me. Where I live now, you can basically walk into any local pharmacy or clinic and get the vaccination on the spot. Prior to this though, people were put into groups based on their eligibility, and I happened to be in group 1C, which was said to only be eligible to get the vaccine in May. When I arrived at my local pharmacy, everything was pretty smooth and quick. They checked me in, they asked me my screening questions, and I waited in one of the chairs that was separated from other ones 6 feet apart, so everything was pretty safe. There wasn't really many people there either, maybe 3 or 4 others, and there was a room that we would go in, and there would be someone in there administering the vaccine. And you guys, I did something so stupid, and I don't know why I did this because I don't really have a fear of needles. I think I'm way past that point now. And I ended up telling her, stop, I'm scared. So she pulled back and waited, and to be honest, it didn't seem like I was the first person to tell her this. I took a few breaths and told her she can resume, and when she jabbed me, I felt a deep ache in my arm. The whole process took about 10 to 15 minutes, with the jab being about 2 minutes. And I was out of there, and they told me to wait in the chair for about 15 to 20 minutes extra just to see if I would have any adverse reactions or walk around the aisles. And I happened to be at Walgreens. For those of you who don't know what Walgreens is, it just sells general goods, bathroom stuff, food, and whatnot. And I walked through some aisles, I sat in the chair, and then I ended up walking through the hardware aisle, I believe, and with all those Febreze and potpourri scents, those really irritate me. I'm sensitive to that stuff. And I started feeling a tickle in my throat, and whenever this happens to me, I start coughing. And the only way to stop this cough is to drink water, which I did not have on me because I didn't feel that I would end up needing water in an area where I would have to take off my mask, which I wasn't going to, and there were people getting the COVID vaccine. So the water was in my car, and I was all the way in the back of the store. I started coughing, my eyes started watering. At first I thought it was a reaction to the vaccine immediately, and I got kind of scared, but it wasn't, because this always happens to me when I come in contact with some irritant. I went home and I felt fine. I had a lot of energy. I did some work, I typed on the computer, and I didn't feel any different. To be honest, I felt the same as I do when I take my methotrexate on Mondays. If there's anyone watching who also takes methotrexate to treat your rheumatoid arthritis or other autoimmune condition, comment below and let me know. With a little injection emoji, and we can talk about the cute band-aids we get or what we do to treat ourselves afterwards. But on that note, every time I take my methotrexate injection, I have a burst of energy, and then after several hours, I get really tired. Also wanted to mention that I followed the American College of Rheumatology guidelines when it came to being off my medicine. So for rheumatoid arthritis, they advise for anyone who takes this medication to stop it 1 week after each dose. Originally, my rheumatologist wanted me to continue with my methotrexate all the way through up until the second one. She only recommended I do so because I was having a bit of a flare on and off prior to my first dose of the vaccine. I received the first dose on Friday, April 2nd, and I was supposed to start my methotrexate injections again on that Monday. However, come Monday, my inflammation disappeared. I felt amazing. The morning of my appointment, I felt horrible and I was really inflamed. On Tuesday and Wednesday, I started to feel a little dizzy. It wasn't anything to the extreme where I wasn't able to function because I've had bad vertigo before in the past, and that was due to me needing osteopathic work and being low in B12 vitamin. Intuitively, I didn't feel that it was going to be a good idea for me to resume my methotrexate that quick after the vaccine. I just didn't feel good to do it. And I told my doctor this, and that weekend, about 6 days later, I developed a fever. That Saturday and Sunday, it reached about 103 on Sunday. And I'm really grateful that I listened to my body, I listened to my intuition, and I don't recommend people do this, but I'm just saying I know my body after 17 years of living with rheumatoid arthritis and just my sensitivities to things, that it wasn't going to be a smart idea. And clearly I had a delayed reaction to the vaccine because I developed a fever about a week later and not right away. I did notice that I felt really thirsty, and no matter what water I drank, whether it be the best pH water bottle around or my filtered water out of my fridge, nothing really helped. Even fruit juice, I was still thirsty. I also felt a little irritable. I did notice that I had eye pain and a tension headache. And with my right eye, I felt right under here on this bone here, it was really tender and as if someone punched me in the eye. I also developed this water bubble under my eye, and I usually get this as well when I come in contact with an irritant. There were also really bad allergies going on. Lately, the pollen in the grass has been extremely high, and I am really sensitive to that stuff. Now on to the second dose. Prior to me going to get this dose, I took a hot shower literally last minute. I wasn't feeling that well at all, and I had a lot of soreness, muscle aches, inflammation in my joints. When he jabbed me, it was like a click, and then he put the medicine in, and it was really rough. The first time it was more seamless than that, it was just in and out, and I actually bled the second time. And going back to my hot shower thing, I noticed that this has happened to me when I would take my injection for rheumatoid arthritis. When I would take a hot shower about an hour or 30 minutes before, I would tend to bleed. So I had stopped doing that for a long time. I learned my lesson while I was on Enbrel. I don't know what possessed me to take a hot shower last minute, but again, I wasn't feeling well. I was dragging. I wasn't sure how I was going to handle the side effects from the second dose because I had read and heard so many bad things about it. But I went and did it anyways. And when I got home, same thing as the first dose, felt energized, didn't feel much. And once nighttime hit though, that's when the body aches and chills started. So I had an immediate reaction the second time around, which I actually was glad. And that night was the roughest. I didn't fall asleep till 5:30 in the morning. I tried sleeping, I couldn't sleep. The body aches were really bad. Even having the covers over me hurt. And it really reminded me of the times prior to my diagnosis when I would have really bad body pain. I didn't take any NyQuil or any other sleep aids because I generally don't take those in the first place, and I wasn't about to start doing so. I did take about 4 Tylenol, and the first round I took Bayer, and I freaked out because I was reading that you should only take Tylenol and that Bayer, aspirin, ibuprofen shouldn't be taken. Then I talked to my doctor, and she said that she had patients who take Bayer for stroke and heart attack prevention all the time, and they were fine. I did have Tylenol lying around, but for some reason I gravitated toward the bear. The second time I took only Tylenol, and it didn't really help that much. The chills, the body aches, and the fever came in waves. It helped a little bit, yeah, for sure. And the second night I took it before bed, and I was able to sleep a lot better. And by Sunday morning, I felt as if a veil had lifted, and I felt like myself again. I took a shower, and then a few hours later, I felt something itchy on my arm, and I looked down, and I noticed a pink little red rash. And I was like, oh my God, I don't really know what this is. And I had heard about COVID arm, but I didn't really research much about it before my vaccine. And you can see here, it really wasn't that bad looking compared to some that I've seen on the internet. And it wasn't really itchy either. I left it alone. I didn't put any cream on it or take any Benadryl. I really only just kept it clean, and whenever it did start itching, I took a little alcohol prep pad and rubbed it on, and then the itching stopped. After about 4 days, the rash left, and I haven't had any problems since. For those of you who appreciate research, I read a Yale study that said that women are more likely to develop hypersensitivity reactions to the vaccine and report more side effects due to the fact that women have more of a robust immune system than men. For those of you who are wondering what I did to help relieve my side effect symptoms, I didn't really do anything out of the ordinary. I drank a lot of water, made sure to eat healthy meals. When I didn't have an appetite, I forced myself to eat. And I also kept my arm moving. With rheumatoid arthritis, I've learned if something aches, gentle movement is really helpful. So every 30 minutes, I basically took my arm up and over my head like this and back down, and that really kept things from getting too sore. And I really tried to keep my schedule in the morning, whether that be meditation, prayer, and just took some time to relax. And I want to address why I had fear, worry, and anxiety prior to getting the vaccine. Number one reason is that I have moderate to severe rheumatoid arthritis, and I wasn't sure how my body would handle it. Number two, I was flaring prior to getting my first dose, and I didn't know if my flares would get worse. Number three, I haven't received a vaccine in a long time. I don't typically take the flu vaccine every year. I do other methods taught to me by my functional medicine doctor that have worked great. Am I against the flu vaccine? No. Will I ever get the flu vaccine? Yes, probably. I'm not an anti-vaxxer by any means. Obviously, I got the COVID vaccine. But there was just instances in my life where getting the flu vaccine wasn't optimal for my health at that time. I'm not going to get into why. There was just so many things going on. And I'm also due for my tetanus. So my rheumatologist also suggested that I do the COVID vaccine first and then go forth with any other vaccinations I need to do. And I know many people may be watching who don't know what a flare is. A flare is basically an increase of your symptoms. Lastly, I want to share what gave me courage to go forth with getting the COVID vaccine. Number one was talking to my rheumatologist, other medical providers, and pharmacists. I felt a weird sense of comfort that my rheumatologist and other doctors also got the vaccine. I know that there are many other vaccines out there, but this virus has kept us all away from each other for about 1.5 years now. My rheumatologist is often prescribing me medications that she does not take herself. And when I report my side effects to her from these medications, she can understand, but she can't empathize. One of my doctors made a good point, and what he said really put things into perspective for me. He said, you're going to flare if you get COVID, and you're going to flare if you get the vaccine. So really pick or choose. And if you haven't received the vaccine yet, or happen to be on the fence for any reason, I encourage you to make a pros and a cons list. For me, the biggest pro was the relief that I would get when I make medical appointments going forward. I used to fear going into the offices in the hospital setting to see my doctors because I wasn't vaccinated. I decided to post a question in a Facebook support group for rheumatoid arthritis, and basically it asked who got the vaccine and what their experiences were. Within about an hour, I received 60 replies, and majority were positive. There were a few people who flared and others who just didn't fare well. But overall, whether it was Moderna or Pfizer or any of the other vaccines, people felt fine. There was one person's comment. He said, "We take medications weekly for rheumatoid arthritis and those have side effects. Just take the jab." And that put things into perspective for me too. It's true, the medications I take for rheumatoid arthritis have side effects, but so do the supplements, the teas I drink. Basically anything can have a side effect. With that being said, I want to know if anyone watching had any fear, worry, or anxiety of their own prior to getting the vaccine. Let me know in the comments. That's all I have for this video, guys. I hope you found that my COVID vaccine experience with receiving Moderna was informative. Please share this with those you know, and don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and comment below and let me know what your experience was like. And this video wouldn't be complete if I didn't announce the Spoonie Star Supporter of the Week. Here they are. Thank you so much for your continued support. This comes as popular demand from over on my Instagram. I created yet another poll. Yes, I love my polls, asking if people would like me to pull a positive affirmation card after some of my videos. I got this on Amazon. I'll link it below in the description box. I'm not affiliated, just sharing it out of my own good heart. I figured after such a topic, we need some positivity. And no, not toxic positivity. This is all in good fun. So I'm going to shuffle a collective message and see what we all get. Sanctuary. When I was about to show the card that we all got, my camera battery decided to turn off and I had to charge it. So here we are, 2 hours later. I will just leave it right there for anyone who wants to pause for a moment. And it's a beautiful message.